Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into another Arkansas football recruiting report with Otis Kirk. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Evan Camico. Otis, we got some really good news to talk about. It feels like for the first time in a while, fall camp starting on Wednesday. We'll get to that a little bit later. But let's start with the Hogs going 3 for 3, getting 3 commitments, 3 big commitments, I should say, this week.
Yeah, there were 3 announcements coming up. We talked about that last Sunday. And I left out Nigel Pringle. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about him. But we talked about the other 2 and about highlighted and said, we didn't know if they'd get any of them or not. There was predictions for them to get them and some predictions for them not to get them by the national people. So it was up in the air, but Arkansas had a really good week. They started out with Nigel Pringle, cornerback out of Houston North Shore on Monday. Then they added Lionel Prudhomme on Friday. And then yesterday, they kind of closed it out and got 4-star defensive lineman Reginald Vaughn. They were recruiting 2 defensive linemen there at his high school. The 3-star went to Alabama, and Arkansas got the 4-star. So it's usually the other way around. But Arkansas pulled in Reginald Vaughn. Man, he's good. He is good. I saw him. I talked to him at the 7-on-7 in a football camp here. His team came up and played in the 7-on-7. He just came along to watch and to look at the U of A and stuff. And at the time, I really thought Simmons, the other kid, had more interest than he did in Arkansas. But it turned out he didn't. They were here, I think it was like a Wednesday, Evan, for a camp, or a Thursday with their team. And then they were going to come back the following week, the next weekend, not that weekend, but the next one for an official visit. And Simmons ended up not taking it. He went to Alabama that weekend and committed. But no, that was great. Prudhomme's a lot better than people think. I've seen some people say, well, another 3-star, but let me tell you, he's actually pretty good. He's an interior. Now, he's only 6'3", but he's an interior offensive lineman. Excuse me. He's an interior offensive lineman, but that's not a knock. I mean, you got to have guards and centers. You can't just have all tackles. But no, he's really good. And then Pringle fits a need. He's first cornerback in this class, so they definitely needed him. They've got a safety committed. But it was big to pick up those 3. All 3 of those are very good players. Getting Baum was kind of the icing on the top. You beat the 2 Mississippi schools. You beat the 2 Mississippi schools for Prudhomme, Mississippi and Mississippi State, and you beat LSU also for Vaughn. And they had a lot of offers. He had a lot of offers, as did Prudhomme, but they had narrowed it down. But yeah, Vaughn had it down to LSU and the 2 Mississippi schools. And Prudhomme and eliminated his others and got it down to Arkansas and the 2 Mississippi schools. Pringle, he was here. I missed him when he was on his official visit. That's one reason I honestly kind of slipped my mind about him because I hadn't heard much about him. But he committed Monday, and that's a need because they need it. I'd say Tavion Wallace, the linebacker that's committed here, is doing a lot of recruiting for Arkansas, Evan, and it's helping them. It's showing up. I mean, this kid chose Arkansas over Florida State, Georgia, everybody. And for him to be out here selling Arkansas, it's making a difference. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, too.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt, too, when your defensive coordinator's out there on social media dropping bars, getting 1.2 million views or so, getting retweeted by guys like Pat McAfee, Ryan Clark, Randy Moss. So obviously, I think all that plays really well into the last week or so for Arkansas getting some big recruits.
Yeah, Randy Moss talking about coming out of retirement, playing for Coach T. Will. Yeah, that's big, man. I mean, look, it's going to be serious business when they start playing. But it's good to have some fun and relaxation, and not just everything, just, drama. It's good to let loose like T. Will did the other night and have some fun, man. I mean, the room was hopping. Hell, he got me ready to hop. He got me ready to jump up and down. So, I mean, it's good. I like that. I think it was good. I know it was, and it's paying off on social. The bigger than that, the kids love it. The prospects love it. It doesn't really matter what I think about it. I like it, but I mean, the prospects, that appeals to kids. It really does. It shows got a personality beyond just yelling at you on the football field.
And like I mentioned, Tavion Wallace getting into that a little bit on social media this morning as well. So really fun side. Yeah. Let's turn another 2026 commitment from Tucker Young. What do you have on him? What could he bring to the Hill?
He came to camp up here this summer, Evan. Didn't get an offer that day. He actually got one the next day. They called him the next day and offered him. or they called, I think his coach, I don't think they could call him. I think they called down there and had his coach tell him to call them. And so Tucker called him, but he's 6'5". He's really about 6'4.5", 300. I call him 6'5" because that 6'4.5" was without shoes. He's a big kid. I'm gonna get him on here in a couple of weeks. You know, I had a lot to talk about today, so I didn't call him, but I want to get him on here. But Tucker is Hot Springs Lakeside, an in-state kid, and you know the way they've lost some in-state kids in this class, it's kind of good to be out in front in 2026 and get a player like Tucker Young in the state. He's a good ball player, solid offensive player, can play tackle, guard, could probably play center. I don't know, but he can play anywhere they want him on the offensive line. And for Arkansas to get him this early, I think that was huge. He told me when he got offered, I called him. Like I said, he didn't get offered here at the camp. He got offered the next day, and then that was on a Thursday. He got offered. And a Friday, I called him, and he told me that he really was impressed with Mateus and Pittman and just the plans they have for the offensive line here, you know, and the improvement. And so I knew he was leaning to Arkansas. I didn't know he'd commit this early, but that was big to get him yesterday because I think that can help with some other in-state players. They've got several offers out in 2025, 2026. Still got some out in 2025 even. But I think that's huge to get a kid in in-state. I'm big on keeping the kids at home if you can. If you can't, you can't. But I mean, but getting Tucker Young this early, I think, will help their cause in that regard. Kind of like Grayson Wilson in the past. You know, last year, I think Grayson coming on, it gave Arkansas some credibility in the state. I think Tucker will do. He's not a quarterback, but I think he'll do the same thing. And he's a big lineman. A lot of people know him, and they've gone against him at camps, and they know he's pretty dang tough, man. He's a good ball player.
Yeah, Otis, we've talked about it over and over again. We sound like a broken record. It's great you want to keep your top in-state talent in state. You know, 2024, 2025 kind of hurt a little bit for Arkansas landing one of those top three guys in the state, but 2026 making that heavy push. Again, there's a lot of time until then. We'll see who actually gets to the hill, but so far signs are so good for Sam Pittman and company. Let's talk two more recruits who are going to be committing on July 31st and August 3rd in Cameron Settles and Nelson McGuire. What could they potentially bring? What are you hearing about where they are in their process?
McGuire's just a big kid, Evan. He's about 6'4". He told me he's 6'5". I've told this story before, so I'm not going to go into that. But he told me he's 6'5". 6'4". And like I said, I believed him at 6'5". He's big, and he's about 315 pounds. He's a kid that can play anywhere on the offensive line, kind of like Tucker Young. In fact, he's similar size to Tucker. Probably he weighs a little bit more than Tucker, but he's also a year older than him too. And he's 2020. Both these are 2025. We're getting ready to talk about. You mentioned there. But McGuire, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Arkansas. He was committed to Minnesota when he was here on official visit. He had told me then he was going to decommit Sunday at noon, and he did. He told me to be looking for that on X, that he was going to decommit at noon, and he did. He's not going to Minnesota. They're still being mentioned, but he's not going there. I think Arkansas, Texas Tech, or Kansas State is the three. They were pushing for him yesterday. I know the kids at the camp were some of the offensive linemen are committed. They were putting on Twitter, "Hey, who's next?" And they put Nelson, they put McGuire. You know, I mean, so they've got him in mind, and they're working on him. And it's not just Tavion, but I mean these other linemen are working on Nelson. He's a different kid. He, like I told you before, or maybe it's Jacob. I don't, but he's guarded.
You told
with
one of us.
Yeah, he's guarded with his information, so he's kind of hard to read. I mean, he'll answer every question. He's real polite, but I just mean that he's a hard kid to read. So I don't know where he's going, but and it's been a while since. I mean, it's been a while since he was here. It's been a while since I've talked to him, but I feel like Arkansas has definitely got a chance there. We'll see between Arkansas, Texas Tech, Kansas State. A lot of people are picking Texas Tech. He did go to Tech when he left here. I will say that. He was here on Wednesday, Thursday, left Friday morning early, and then went to Texas Tech and spent Friday, Saturday, and then left there Sunday morning early. So they got the last visit, but I mean, sometimes that matters and sometimes it doesn't. But I do know that Arkansas is in on him, and we'll see where it ends up. But then Cameron Settles, you know, it'd be nice to get him. It goes back to what we just talked about with Tucker, with the in-state kids. And, you know, he's got Missouri, Ivy League school, Memphis. I mean, he's got some options, Arkansas, obviously. And Arkansas could use a running back in this class. And I had a guy tell me, this is not a guy connected to Arkansas, not connected to any college, but he told me his opinion, that's just his opinion. He thought Settles was the best player on that Parkview team. Now, that's not where he's ranked. Man or Amarian Robinson's ranked as number one player on that team. But Cameron was here yesterday. So was Ja'Cory Smith. Of course, Quentin Murphy, we had on here a few weeks ago, was here yesterday. The three Parkview kids that's left. Murphy is recruiting Settles, but I'd like to see Arkansas get some good news next Saturday. I don't know if they will, but it'd be nice for them to close out with him in the state. Because like I said, they could use a running back. They've only got one committed, and they could use him. And they've lost a couple of kids at Parkview. And it might help give them some momentum with him and Quint to get Ja'Cory Smith next year, because he's a linebacker, 2026 linebacker. He's a big-time linebacker, one of the best in the country. He's not the biggest, but he's one of the best. He's not the biggest, but he's one of the best. It's just that simple with him.
Yeah, and we've talked now McGuire. Let's touch on Cameron Settles a little bit. August 3rd is his commitment date.
Yeah. Just both of them. Settles got a lot of options. And so we just have to see where they go. Evan, just McGuire. Like I said, he's hard to read. Settles is a nice kid. Be good to see if Arkansas can pull him in at running back.
And last but not least, there is some good news that we do have to talk about. I'll let you kind of start with it. My good news is that fall camp starts on Wednesday. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you have some good news as well.
Yeah, there's some big news coming for Arkansas here in about 10 days to 2 weeks, if everything holds true to what is shaping up right now. And if it comes true, it's going to be a national splash for the Hogs. It's not going to be just a local. It's going to be a national splash for the Hogs. So I'm just teasing to some good news that's coming down the pipe. And Arkansas fans are going to be happy if this happens. It's a double dose of good news. It's double dose. And so we'll see how this plays out. But right now, Arkansas is in really good shape for a couple of players that would move the needle. I'll put it that way. They would definitely move the needle. I mean, these are difference makers. We're not talking even big time recruits. We're talking people that move the needle, and they'll know that when we name them, because I've talked about it before, both of them on here, and they're big time players. And so we'll see how if everything holds true as it stands right now. One will announce in 10 days and one will announce in 2 weeks. So we'll see where it stands at the end of that period.
So Arkansas closing in on potentially two really big names on the national level. Let's talk about the local level in the Razorbacks. Fall camp opens on Wednesday. Last question I have for you before we wrap up. What are you most intrigued about and looking forward to for fall camp this year?
We've heard the chemistry, the group is so much better than it was last year. And just see that how they're moving in practice. Just talk to the players up there on the stand. And I know we're going to get a lot of softball stuff. I mean, we get that every year. That comes with the territory. But I'm one of those that thinks this team's going to be better than people think it is. I'm not saying national championship. I'm not saying playoff. But I do think this team can win 7, 8 ball games. If they do that, if you get to 8, who knows? You might get to 9. But now September is going to be huge for this team. We're going to know a lot. They played 5 games in 5 different stadiums in September. Well, counting the August 29th game, but counting that, 5 games in September in 5 different stadiums. So we'll see where they're at the end of September. If they're 3-2 or better, then look out. They're going to be pretty good. If they're 3-2 or better, because that would honestly that would mean beating UAPB in Little Rock. It would mean beating UAB here. Then it would mean winning at Oklahoma State, winning at Auburn, or winning in Arlington against A&M. If you're 4-1, then you've won 2 of those places. So I think we'll know a lot more at the end of September. But I really like this team. I'll be honest with you. I know. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, Sam Pittman likes this team. They're gonna be better than people think. I can assure you of that. And Sam's pretty confident in that. Talked to him and this summer, and he's pretty confident. He's got a pretty good football team over there. Like I said, nobody's predicting 12-0 and 10-2 or whatever. I'm not. I mean, he might be, but I'm not. But I'm just saying he feels good about the team. And I'm not saying that because of that. I felt good about this team even before that. I just think getting Taylor and Green. I think they hit a lot of home runs out of the portal. I think those 3 offensive linemen. They only have 1 player on the All SEC top 3 team. People don't know about Carmona. People have voted, the media in other states, they don't know Fernando Carmona. Luke has it tight end. You should know that. But they're going to have more players at the end of the year. But Fernando Carmona is one of the best offensive tackles in the nation, not just the SEC. So I feel really good about this team, Kevin. I'm just looking to see if my confidence is probably justified by the way it looks at practice. I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't know what they would do to maybe they're not as good. But I feel good about this team. I'm just looking to see the chemistry, the atmosphere at practice, and just hopefully they avoid a lot of key injuries and just have fun at it.
Yeah, Otis, there's an old saying in baseball, hope springs eternal. I don't know the football equivalent. Maybe, fall brings, cool leaves or something like that. But there's a lot of, I think, positive momentum. And again, a new year, new season. It kind of feels like there's a different vibe. Like you've said, we saw it at Media Day. We saw it yesterday talking to Taylon Green when he was thrown at Fayetteville High School. It just seems like there's a different vibe heading into the season. And, that could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Who knows? Yeah. Only time will tell. Anything else, Otis, before we wrap up?
Well, no, going to your point, and I'll be quick with this. I know we're winding down, but when adversity strikes, and it will, we'll see how they handle adversity, because right now they're undefeated. It's all positive. We get that, Evan. But we'll see when adversity hits, how do they handle it? I don't think they handled it real well last year, but I think one of the reasons they didn't handle it well last year, I don't think they had the leadership that they've gotten Taylon Green and the players this year. So I think that's where the difference is going to come in. There's going to be adversity. There's going to be adversity for every team in the country, including Arkansas. But how they handle it, and I think they'll handle it a lot better, and I think you'll see a better result on the field because of it.
Absolutely. We'll find out. We'll have more after the first practice on Wednesday, so be sure to follow along on all of our social medias for that. And again, Arkansas opens the season in Little Rock, like you said, August 29th against UAPB. We'll have plenty more coverage coming up leading to that opening game. That is going to do it for this edition of the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. For Otis Kirk, I'm Evan Kamiko. We'll see you all next week.